Welcome to Hot Topics. Welcome, Andy.
Hey Phil, it's a warm one today, isn't it?
It's a hot one. I was just going to say, yeah, we're both looking a little bit warm, but hopefully we'll come across as looking cool, eh?
I've definitely never been cool in my life. So if I can come across as cool now, then that's definitely a win for me.
Absolutely. So really pleased to have launched the EYC Academy back in June and getting some rave reviews and some great reports and a building base of subscribers to that, which we're really chuffed about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something which for us it's all about our mission to try and make and help therapy business owners be more informed in their decisions so that they can have the business that they want. And something we're both incredibly passionate about is to help give as many therapy business owners the information that they need to make good decisions. And that's what it's about, isn't it? You know,
it is in accessible form and hopefully an affordable, well, great value for money, I would say.
I would totally agree with that. Yeah, certainly.
So on this podcast, we've had a few conversations in the last couple of weeks in the area that I call kind of policies, procedures and practices. And we have talked about this before, but we're going to kind of talk more about practice or the into practice bit. Holidays are obviously coming up and we need to be thinking about continuity, but also thinking about vaccinations. And then we want to look forward a little bit, don't we, into your presentation that you made at the Therapy Live event on private practice and talk a little bit about that, and then move on and give some exciting news about how we're going to develop a webinar series.
No, brilliant.
So without more ado, policies, procedures and practices.
It's an interesting topic, isn't it? You know,
very.
It's one which, big bold statement here, I'm not sure a lot of private practices do it really well. It's probably not the focus of their attention.
And I can understand that. I mean,
yeah, totally.
As busy practitioners, you know, what you need lots of bits of paper. Everybody loves paper to write, to fill in and to copy and to stick on shelves that never get read. And that's always been the curiosity for me around what is a policy and why do we need them? And can we just kind of copy and paste and steal them from somewhere and just crack on with it? And that's the worst of all worlds for me, I think.
Yeah, but certainly, I mean, so where I sit on this, I think that a lot of people are unsure what they need to have. So what actually do we need to have? And I think as a healthcare practitioner, there's two ways. There's one, what do policies we need as a business owner? So what's the business processes and what's the legal things that we need to have, you know, employment contracts, things like that, which, you know, we've talked about a lot. And I know you spend a good lot of time working with our employment lawyer just to make sure that, you know, we're feeding the listeners the best information that we can get, which is fantastic. And, you know, if you've never listened to Sarah, listeners, then she's certainly somebody who gives really, really good down-to-earth advice, which is brilliant. Or there's, like you've said there, the people that kind of cut and paste stuff and it sits in a massive folder on a shelf, or it sits, you know, more into a technical, a OneDrive or a Dropbox somewhere, and it gets brought out when people are inducted in to say, you read all this and then sign to say you've done it.
Yeah.
But then it's never really enforced or actually doesn't sit and part of the values of the whole business, which, and then there's as a healthcare practitioner, there's other policies that we need to be considering. And so there's quite a lot to think about, really, if you break it down. I know when we are speaking to businesses, and sometimes they go a bit overwhelmed by the amount of stuff they need to do and that they need to know and they need to create and they need to be able to monitor and make sure that everyone's compliant, which it can be a bit overwhelming, can't it?
It can. And I think the learning point for me in this around policy is that as you've identified, there'll be policies that are the nature of the industry that we're in, so relate to the world of therapy. and external validation and external quality assurance. And then there's the core of stuff around business. Some of that actually affects you if you are a director of a business, because, for some of it, you could actually end up on bread and rations, tucked up behind a door somewhere if you get it wrong. In other ways, you might just get fined or a clip on the wrist if you ever get found out. But for me, those policies actually help you to set the tone and the nature for your understanding for your organization. But often we shy away from getting help. Now, I mean, one of the things we always said when we started out with EYC was we aren't experts in everything, which is why we've built the network of experts that we have and arranged some great discounts and some great free stuff that actually help people. So there's a kind of an opportunity cost for me. Do you beaver away for weeks and weeks, in your own small hours, or you cut and paste and change one clinic name to another?
Yeah.
But you've no sense of the base document. Is it even valid and current and appropriate? So sometimes spending a little bit or getting some free advice to find out that everything is in order is money well spent. So that's the P on policy for me. Procedure, fascinating, because many of us will start out small organizations and the procedure is whatever we do.
Yeah.
And we don't need to share it because it's what we do. But then as the organization starts to grow, surprisingly, the people that join us don't actually necessarily understand what's in our heads. So they don't know what the process is. And so then we might document a process and it might fall into the same trap on Dropbox or OneDrive or wherever your favorite host is. And nobody ever looks at it. And maybe it's your ideal process, but actually it's not the process that, if you follow your own process through, would be the process that would happen in practice.
Yeah.
Which is what I've found a lot in my previous life, where somebody will design something perfectly as your perfect pathway. But actually, when you try to apply that perfect pathway in practice in your clinic, the pathway doesn't work. So everybody goes, well, this is a load of rubbish anyway, isn't it? And then they go off and do whatever they want to do. So that process is the process element is not to be overstated nor underestimated in terms of its impact on your organizational performance.
I always write this back to, and we've all done it, haven't we? We've all got flat pack furniture, and you open the instructions and go, who on earth wrote these? This does not work in the way that this should be done, and that's it, isn't it? It's the set of instructions of going, we'll do it this way, but actually in practice it doesn't go together that way. You have to proper adapt it to put things together. So I think that's a really nice point.
And then the final one, which we'll keep coming back to, is practice.
Yeah.
Now, you can have the best policy in the world that absolutely meets every requirement you could, and actually is very well written and anybody can read it and understand it. Good news. You then have a process that actually is the process that you would ideally follow and is fit for purpose in terms of your own clinic and your own setting. But that doesn't make it so, because the hard work then is actually putting that process and that policy into practice, which doesn't happen by osmosis. And that's the work that your clinical lead or you as a director of the business need to put the time and effort into to help people to understand from their own context. I mean, from a clinician's point of view, and then from an admin person or a receptionist point of view, they see the world hopefully in the same way that you do, but they come from it from a completely different focus. And we've experienced this more recently, and getting that relationship and that understanding onto a common platform, a common level of understanding as to why, we go back to cynic stuff of, what's your why?
Yeah.
Well, your why as a clinician and my why as the non-clinician will be different.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that you work on quite a lot with a number of individuals and within your own businesses.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I have to give a bit of a shout out here, Phil, because I spoke to two really fantastic people. And if you've not been aware of Sandra and Sarah from HCPG, I hope I've got that right, HCPG, about this, and they're all about that clinical governance and all the things that healthcare practitioners needs to do. So, and hopefully we're going to be recording quite a detailed podcast with them. So I'm looking forward to that. It'd be really good, won't it? Because I think it's something that we spend a lot of time drumming on about, making sure that businesses do this really, really well. So to meet them, and they're an organization that do outsource this and do it really, really well, is really fantastic. And I think it can save a lot of time, effort, and energy for a lot of people.
So that moves us on to the fact that you're going to take a bit of holiday in August, like quite a lot of people, I think, particularly people with children of school and college age. So the timely holiday cover, is there anybody in there doing any work, or has everybody just disappeared off at the same week?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's something which I speak to a lot of people, and it's going, what do you do? Well, people just disappear for 2 weeks. Okay. So what's the solution? Well, there's no solution. We've got no staff to cover it. Just goes off. So for me, holiday cover is about being really organized as a business and planning well, because, what's your contingency when someone goes off? What's the plan? Someone puts some notice in, then what? So as a business, how much you plan for that? If you're listening to this and it's just you and the organization, what happens if you want to go on holiday for 2 weeks? Is it close the doors, walk away, see you come back, and hopefully the phone's rung while I'm away? Or do you spend the whole time on holiday answering the phones? How many business owners can't go on holiday without their laptop or their mobile phone because they're still making appointments, or they're still booking people in, or still dealing with problems? It's not a holiday, is it? Being able to switch off and enjoy the time. I mean,
sometimes, certainly in my past, it was more stress. It almost felt more stressful being on holiday than it did being at work.
Yeah.
And then particularly when you get back, particularly in my old world, I'd be welcomed by an endless queue of people at my door wanting to talk to me, and hundreds of emails. And you just think, is it even worth taking time off? But of course it is worth taking time off, but you need to be productive in how you run your life and where you get your rest and relaxation.
Well, the positive thing for me this year, I won't be in a Spanish hotel with my daughter. Well, I'll be in a campsite in the Lake District with no Wi-Fi or electricity. So the good news is I've got no opportunity to even check anything, because there won't be no mobile phone signal on the beach. So it'll be just us two and nature, which will be fantastic.
Back to environment and nature, which is a good thing, isn't it? Which probably, as we talk about holiday cover, gives us time to just remind people that if you've not already listened to the podcast, or if you're part of the Academy, watch the video. I recorded a short session with Sarah Collier, our employment law partner, around vaccinations and what the current position is, which, to be honest, is still a little bit emergent, but still worth a listen. And we're going to do a follow-up once the guidance becomes clearer. But there are some good tips and tricks in that podcast and in the video, if you're on the Academy site, that's well worth dropping into, taking a look at.
It is there. Yeah. So I guess just to kind of final on holiday cover, really, I mean, one of the things for me would be that, going back to process and policy and procedure, what do you do? What is it that you've got? Do you plan for that? Do you have a system in place, a cover? Do you bring in other people who can do some part-time work? Do people do overtime? How is it? My question is, do you plan within your forecasting for that time? Knowing that, it might be quieter, but how much money or decrease in revenue do you have? And do you then think about that and plan that in, so that if you do have a dip in your revenue because you've got holiday on team on holiday, which they are entitled to, by the way, they have to go away and you need to go away. But how do you plan that into your overall budget and forecasting?
So the other bit of news, as partners in Therapy Live 2021, you got to present around setting up in private practice.
Yeah, everything.
And it seemed to go down really well. So the good news is you've done a take 2, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I did it for our academy members. I just reframed it. I think that's that NLP backgrounds would use that terminology, wouldn't they, to say that I've reframed it in a way so that anyone who is considering starting up a private practice or has got one, we reframed it in a way of what both of us came up when we were developing the EYC and our whole ethos and our vision for it, what we sat behind, which started off as the rocket, continued to be the rocket, and our 6 foundation points. And it's just me really highlighting that if you are a therapist and you see yourself as a great therapist, then you've already got the key skills to actually be a really great business owner. And it's just helpful. Sometimes you can't always see that. So the idea of this presentation, which, like Phil said, is in our academy and is live this month, is the fact that how as a therapist you can use those skills to become the business owner that you want to become. So yeah, it's good. I think it's always nice to share stuff like this, isn't it? And given the opportunity to get our vision on a mission out to more people, which is really exciting.
It is a great intro, and that brings us to our kind of final bit for this podcast, which is our webinar series. So building really on the work that Andy did in prep for Therapy Live Business, and as Andy said, underpins the work of Elevate Your Clinic and the EYC Academy. Will be a webinar series that's going to come out towards the back end of August, which is going to take those 6 themes and bring them to life. And we're going to bring them to life in our usual entertaining and direct fashion, but we're going to use a series of influencers and experts in those particular areas, just to bring a bit of color and context to help us spread the word and spread the message. So that's going to be a free series.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing, isn't it? I think for people out there listening, that our webinars are going to be free, and just to help, again, just improve our knowledge, the knowledge of people, and we can share the work that we do normally on a one-to-one basis with our private coaching clients that we work one-to-one within businesses. It's just a way of getting our information out to everybody that is willing to learn and improve themselves within our business. So we're going to start with vision, and still date to be confirmed on this. I have to put that out there at the time of recording this, hopefully by the time the date, but Mr. Jack Chu is going to be joining us on setting a vision, or doing our vision, because for me, the work he's done with Physio Matters, the vision of what he wanted to achieve with that, and the vision that he then went on to set up MSK Reform as a visionary within the therapy industry, aligns very much what we spend our time, predominantly, Phil, this is one of the things you're really good at. And if you're ever interested, the vision's on the academy, isn't it, as well?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you have a business and you're really looking to develop what you want it to become and how to set a vision, within the academy, you've got an exercise which, when we first went through this together, definitely gets the cogs working internally, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It
but
does.
The product that comes out of it is really good. It's excellent what actually comes out of it. And I think so. What we're excited about with this webinar series, I think fundamentally, is to really help you get your cogs going. Yeah. And we've actually got some more stuff that will be, hopefully, over the next few podcasts, more and more exciting stuff that we're going to be launching this year. I mean, it's a really exciting year for us. We've launched our academy that Phil opened with, and we're only growing on that. We're only growing on developing more and more stuff that can really help, and free stuff.
Absolutely.
That's all it's about. More free stuff that we're going to be giving away, so that we can really drive our mission and our vision of improving how therapy business owners just run their business.
Too right. So that's it for this week. So just a reminder, we talked about policies, procedures and practices, and how important putting all of that into practice is. We talked a little bit about HCPC and gave them a bit of a plug. So if you're looking for some
HCPG,
PG, sorry,
it's all right.
yeah,
No, I had to write. Yeah.
Sorry, colleagues. Holiday performance, holiday cover, and the latest on vaccinations. Take a look out if you're on the Academy for Andy's latest video on setting up in private practice. And then we had a quick canter into our free webinar series and MSK reform. So that's it for now. So until next time.
Thanks for listening.
Go well.